Shall we begin? Okay, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome, friends, neighbors, members, all of you. Welcome to UU Catskills. I'm Cattabiani, a member of the UU Catskills Worship Committee. Our minister is Reverend Bob Janis. He will be back in the pulpit in 2 weeks, but next week we have a very special service in which our own Jeff Ryder is going to lead us in songs of protest, civil rights, and freedom. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you're new and watching on Zoom and would like to be added to the mailing list, you're invited to type your name and email into the chat box. And if you're new and here, yourself, if you wish. Also, people who haven't been here in a while. Any brave people? Hi.
I'm Chase Randall. I'm a good friend of Paulie's, and I've been here a few years back.
Welcome, Chase. Yes. So, whether you're on Zoom or in the flesh, welcome all. After the service, don't run away. Those of you on Zoom can connect with your friends in breakout rooms, and those of you here in the sanctuary, I've written snacktuary. I guess I'm thinking of food, can stay for some food. And feel free to drop $1 or $2 in the donation box to defray the cookie cost. So I hope you all noticed on the screen before the service the scrolling announcements. This is a very active congregation, and to keep announcements from taking up too much of the service else that's going on at UU Catskills, you can visit our website at uucatskills.org. 2 reminders. Pledge season has arrived with the crocuses. There are still spaces left for the 2 meet and greet events, March 30th and April 3rd. If you haven't signed up, contact Lois Slade. Yes.
Sign up on the board outside, just outside this door.
Great. And notice that the second one, the time has changed. And announcement number 2, don't worry, it's not too late. For what, you may ask? For helping our friends at the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network. If you didn't get a chance to buy items for that collection that ends today, you can give money to Paula Silby immediately after the service. And she is going to go out and shop for delivery on Tuesday to the UIDN. Special thanks to Jenny O'Grady-Giddy, who also created those gorgeous rolling announcements, and our sanctuary technical manager, Bruce Wilde, and Polly Pfeiffer, and Liz Thomas for helping me out today. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you're welcome here. We live our principles on a daily basis. At UU Catskills, we recognize that our sanctuary is built on Lenni, Lenape, ancestral land. We affirm Black Lives Matter. We are a welcoming congregation for members of the LGBTQ plus community. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, and we are active voices in the effort to address climate change. Welcome. So we're going to start with a prelude paid by our own Polly Pfeiffer, Opus 28, number 30, by Frédéric Chopin. So, 65 years ago, 10 people gathered in a living room in Kingston to create the Unitarian Fellowship. From that minion evolved our UU Catskills. When the American Unitarian Association ultimately chartered the Unitarian Fellowship of Ulster County in March of 1959, one of the charter members was a fragile, feisty 77-year-old woman who came with her grandson, a woman by the name of Anita Trueman Pickett. And I don't know if anyone truly realized who this petite woman was. Today, with the guidance of this book, which was researched and written over many years by Lynn Bernstein, we're going to recognize one of our forebearers. So let's start with our unison affirmation. It's in your program. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and aspire to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other. Hazel, where did she go? There you are. You ready? You got your name tag? Hazel's going to light our chalice today. It's not as fancy as it used to be. We used to have a flame which also poisoned us, so, you know, it's just the flick of a switch. You ready? Yay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So we say, we light this chalice in grateful, loving community. Even in the darkest of times, may its flame light paths to courage, justice, and hope. Now we're all going to sing a song together. We're going to sing number 6, Just As Long As I Have Breath. Normally this song is sung at the end of a service, but when I started researching Anita Trueman Pickett, I realized that the song exemplifies her spirited approach to the joys, the challenges, and the disappointments of life. You guys sound great. There it is. Okay. Now, not for children only. Let's see. Are you guys willing to come, little guys willing to come forward? Okay. This story takes place in Brazil. Do you know where Brazil is? It's in South America. Come on up. All right, and you're going to help me identify. You're going to tell me what some things are. What is this? A bug. Do you know what kind of a bug it is? Can you see that? It's a beetle. It's a beetle. Okay, this is from South America. Now this is the hard one. Even I didn't know this. What did you say? I think you said, yeah, you probably said yes. Thank you. Say it again. Here.
Tapir?
Tapir. Wow. Thank you. All right. It's related to the guinea pig. Kind of, right? But it's kind of dull, right? So the story takes place, as I said, in Brazil. And one day, the beetle was walking along, and you walk so slowly, I can walk really fast. And the beetle said, well, I'm sure you can. You walk fast. And the tapir said, well, then let's have a race. Now, who's this?
Is it a cockatoo?
Let's say it's a cockatoo. And the cockatoo says, all right, I will be the judge. We will have a race, and we will start here at the burning chalice, and we will go all the way around and end up back here. And the tapir said, and I'm going to win. But what's my prize? And the cockatoo said, well, we will have the tailor bird make you the most beautiful jacket that could possibly be made. How's that sound? And I think I would like to look like a leopard. Now, if somebody could make you a new coat, a very colorful coat, what would you pick? What would you pick?
I would pick like a rainbow jacket.
A rainbow jacket, cool. Anybody else? What would you like?
Pick a jacket that is blue.
That is what? Oh,
Blue.
blue. I love blue. Okay, so they're ready for the race. Now somebody has to carry the cape.
Jake.
I'm gonna, yeah, we always pick you. Here, you wanna carry it? And we're gonna walk all the way around.
Yeah, but who's going to be the beetle?
I'm the beetle.
Oh.
But we also need somebody to carry the cockatoo, because the cockatoo is the judge. Would you like to? Okay. You ready to go? Let's go. Here we go. We're going to take the race. We're going to go all the way around. Come on. Come on. This is a race. Except, wait, where are you? Okay. And he stops and he says, oh, I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I want to go home. Oh, no, I have to win the race. Okay, let's keep going. We got to get around. And he got all the way back, and where's our cockatoo? And the cockatoo says, wait a minute, the beetle's already here. And this guy says, wait a minute. How did you do that? How did you do the whole race? How?
It's because the beetle stayed here.
No, the beetle did the race. It was fair.
Yeah, but I didn't see you hold it, and it looks like when you put it back.
That's true. Well, I should have put it back in a different place. How's that? No, the beetle did it, but the beetle said, I flew. And the caper said, I didn't know you could fly. And the beetle said, you didn't ask. And what happened to our, and our cockatoo, who's masquerading as a parrot, said, you know, sometimes people are not what they, or not people, but things are not what they appear to be. Sometimes you have to ask, And that's kind of the lesson that I'm going to be telling the grown-ups. That sometimes things are there's a lot more underneath there. There's a lot more to something or someone. It's from a book, and I copied the pictures and I glued them there. And if anybody would like to keep them, they can. You can take my beetle and my parrot cockatoo. Okay? So we're going to sing you On Your Way. Every kid that wants to go to RE, you can go. You ready? As we leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness which you learn light your hearts till you return. Okay. We're just going to have a little reading from ATP, Anita Trueman Pickett herself.
Every human being lays hold upon life, as it were, by two hands, knowledge and faith. Knowledge is the firm right hand which directly governs our actions. Faith assists knowledge to bring new objects within its grasp and to hold them till they have been fully examined. It sounds the rich bass chords which accompany and support the melody of our lives. It holds the negative pole of the circuit, which connects us with the battery of spiritual force that sustains our individual existence. Some few persons are spiritually left-handed, neglecting knowledge and accepting faith as their guide in life. They are dreamy and unsatisfactory folks on the whole, while those who emphasize knowledge and ignore faith are limited in their activities and harsh in their judgments. The well-balanced and has the wide reach and firm hold which only knowledge and faith working together can bring.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, we're going to have a very brief meditation. I'm just going to walk you into it. Okay, just come into the present. Put your feet on the ground. Take a deep breath. Take a moment to pause, to reflect, to acknowledge your place in this universe, in the community, and with one another. Take a deep breath. Take a moment to look back over your week just past. Gently call to mind those moments in the last week that you found hard going, or disappointment, times that you may have felt disheartened, overwhelmed, or when the burdens of others weighed heavily on you. Let us pray inwardly for the comfort, compassion, or guidance which we need to face our struggles. Let us breathe in peace. Allow yourself to know how linked we all are. Permit yourself to ask for support when you are in need and offer your support to others when you are able. Although we come this morning with our hearts in different places, our sorrows are connected. Feel held by this community and breathe out love. Take another breath. Now bring your attention to the delights of the last week. The simple pleasures that are bubbling up in your heart, perhaps the surprises, the snowdrops, the bird songs and buds, the joy of everyday blessings, the pleasures of one another's company. Let your happiness fill you. Give yourself time to enjoy the miracle that is your life. We offer up our joys and sorrows, our beauty and our brokenness. We're connected. Feel fed by this community. Breathe in peace. And give us strength to live well into the next week and be our best selves as we carry each other through the journey ahead. Breathe out love. Thank you. Seems almost wrong, but we're going into the offering now. The congregation is sustained by your generous gifts. Each Sunday, the half-plate donation goes to an organization that reflects our values. For the month of March, it's the A.J. Williams Myers African Roots Center. The center is named for Dr. Williams Myers, who was a beloved professor of Black Studies at the State University of New York in New Paltz. The center itself elevates the history and culture of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color with programs for children, teens, and adults. And you can share in several ways. You can put something in the basket as it passes. You can use PayPal, which is the QR code is on your order of service, or you can contribute by using the donate page on our website. The offertory is Melody for Children by Bella Bartok, played by our Paulie Pfeiffer. Thank you. Okay, you ready? Let me tell you a story. This story is about a real person, Anita Trueman Pickett. Anita Trueman was born in Cleveland in 1881. Garfield was the president. The steamboats were rolling up and down the Hudson. It was the dawn of the Progressive Era. Anita spent the first 10 years of her life amidst the Quakers, who she said were a dour lot, whose overwhelming preoccupation seemed to be a very real conflict with the devil. They told her she was wicked, but she was sure that she was saved. Even at age 10, Anita was a free thinker. She loved to testify at their meetings. Even as a child, she loved to preach. And you realize this is a 10-year-old. And was told that if the Spirit moved her to speak during the long silence, she should express herself. And she recalled friends sitting on either side of her, nudging her to speak. And she thought, verily, the Spirit has elbows. Her father, a woodworker, was an agnostic, scorned formal education, but because of his reading habits, could have been called a learned man. He encouraged her reading, and with him, she discussed Emerson, spiritualism, and all the issues of the day. So while at the girls' high school in Brooklyn, she visited what she called an occultist, which is an ophthalmologist, who told her that she could never be a scholar because she couldn't use her eyes for long periods of time. Initially, she was devastated, but then she began to realize that although her book learning would be difficult, this limitation could be a blessing in disguise. An optimist, she made it a blessing, and it turned her toward oratory. When she delivered her valedictory address at her school, she recalled it was one of the thrills of her life. It was one of the first of several thousand such appearances. Eye strain would always be a problem, but perhaps was the contributing factor in her ability to speak so well without a script, unlike me. During this time, Anita rebelled against the educational process to which she was subjected in the Brooklyn school. She said she railed against, quote, accumulating dates and records without much reference to their human significance, about just getting the pupils through their examinations and preventing the girls from having anything to do with the boys in the high school. Now, doesn't young Anita sound like someone you would like to know? Reflecting the conflict between her devout mother and her agnostic father, Anita found herself separating herself from mainstream religion, forming her own opinions of spiritual life on the basis of reason rather than doctrine, finding the balance between knowledge and faith, finding her own understanding of the divine. Anita was taken by the gospel of equal opportunity for all. At age 17, she was writing letters to newspapers about free tax and social justice and giving impromptu talks at street meetings. She felt the joy of martyrdom when some women in the crowd called her a bold hussy. And in the meantime, she was getting the highest marks recorded in the Brooklyn Girls' High School. She wrote later she believed the political and social campaigning was a better education for her than any school could give, and wondered what comparable satisfactions her classmates had gained. Does that sound like Greta Thunberg? The night before Anita was scheduled to introduce a free tax speaker at a meeting, he died. And at that meeting, several leaders of the movement, overcome with grief, tried to speak, faltered, and could not go on. But Anita said, quote, a great power seemed to rise within me, and I took the floor. This is what he would say to you if he could speak. And I began, and I went on passionately to urge them to carry on the work. It was just what the others were trying to say, but they were older and weary. My eager dedication of my own youth seemed to hearten them. So one day she was helping with domestic chores, and as she was considering the water that she was drawing to scrub the floors, she was reminded of a brook rippling over stones on a wooded hillside. Instantly, she said, the cosmic sense which I had been cultivating in my meditations responded to the picture. Yes, even this water that tumbles out of the faucet, even the dirty water that I pour down the sink, is part of an endless, fluid movement of all matter. Silver clouds in the summer sun are part of this circle. Doesn't that sound like our interdependent web? So this was the era of the lecture circuit, a very popular form of entertainment at the time. Speakers traveled about discussing a range of topics such as politics, spiritualism, vegetarianism, phrenology, Civil War. Veterans would tell stories of the war. Sojourner Truth attracted attention as one of the few Black women who lectured widely in support of the rights of African Americans. Elizabeth Cady Stanton traveled the nation to support women's rights. So with her father's blessing, Anita's formal schooling ended after her 17th year, and her speaking engagements began to proliferate. In her travels lecturing, Anita met William James, Carrie Nation, Susan B. Anthony, Alexander Graham Bell, Clara Barton, Helen Keller, and on and on. She spoke on some programs as peace activists and suffragettes, Older women were touched by her enthusiasm, expressing their satisfaction to be sharing their work with the new generation. She was also mentored by famous poets, befriended by philosophers, celebrities, and mystics. But not all of her encounters with famous people were positive. While speaking at the Manhattan Liberal Club, another speaker rose and challenged Anita, stealing the show. And Anita found out that this was Emma Goldman. Yeah, right. The titles of some of her lectures, and I wish I had some of these because some of them I don't know what they're about. Economy and Wealth, The Psychology of Success, Love and Labor, Palaces and Prisons, The Three Orders of Inspiration. Unfortunately, The New World said, only 18 years old, heir to a philosophy of all ages. Besides being a philosopher, Miss Trueman is a poet. She has made a sensation before theosophical societies, labor conventions, teachers' associations, and Orthodox religious meetings. The New York Herald said, she lectures offhand on any subject. Her audience is in touch with her soul. Anita herself said, the spoken word, after all, was my natural medium of expression, and delivering it engaged my whole being. It flowed through my mind, voice, and body like an irreversible stream. Yet I was well aware that the Divine Mother to whom I prayed was truly my inner being, the center through which I was related to the whole cosmos. I could write down a lecture after I had given it, but not before. That certain audience determined the content. After a lecture or a sermon, I have looked into eager eyes and I have heard the question, how did you know just what I needed? Interesting, this heir to the philosophy of the ages was not tall. When she traveled, she brought her suitcase on stage to stand on while she spoke. Anita had many romances, and often than not, they did not measure up to her idea of the cosmic romance. She considered single motherhood, even found a willing male who later lost courage. She wrote in her journal, it seemed to me that without love, the beauties of nature are vacant and speechless. There is ravishing beauty in the night when we wander with a dear one. She was lecturing and preaching at such diverse places as the People's Church in Philadelphia, the Metaphysical Club in Boston, the Liberal Leagues, a Circle of Divine Ministry in Washington, D.C., at Meadville, which is now Meadville Lombard, where in Chicago, where our own Reverend Bob went. Several Unitarian ministers heard her lectures, persuaded her that what she was preaching was Unitarianism, and they urged her to be ordained and take a position in the American Unitarian Association. This I don't understand because she dropped out of school at age 17, so what education, I never found the answer to this, what education was needed to become a Unitarian minister at the time. While at Meadville, where she traded a series of lectures on Milton's Paradise Lost for tuition, she met Harold Pickett. Uh-oh. As their love developed, she expressed her concerns, which I think are pretty prescient. I have been spoiled by the affection of great men. It seems strange to think of loving a man of my own age, one who has not yet faced the battle that I have been fighting these 10 years. It would be glorious to grow with him and nourish the greatness in him and sometimes be the child I have never expressed. I think he's brave enough to leave me free in my work and to support me in it. They married in 1908, honeymooned on the Esopus. But unfortunately, they married so quickly that Beacon Hill thought Anita must be pregnant. She wasn't. And they made Harold stay for another year. Eventually, he got a settled ministry in Sandwich, Massachusetts. Anita continued to lecture, even while pregnant, and you can see this coming. Harold was not supportive. Other congregations followed, including one in Boise, Idaho, from which Harold was asked to leave. There's a cryptic mention of Harold's involvement with another woman. During these busy years, Anita continued to lecture and preach widely widely and wildly, I'm sure, at other churches and venues, all the while raising 3 children and living the demanding dual roles of minister and minister's wife. Scolded by other ministers' wives because she wasn't giving all her time to the family. Interestingly, though, some of her lectures at this time were on the disenfranchised women for the Suffrage League. Anita dreamed of what she might do if given the opportunity. She said, "How I hunger sometimes in the chance to live the full professional life, to organize my time in the service of the work that I can do well." She said that the passion for preaching possessed her in those days. Sermons kept rolling forth in her consciousness, and she felt she could stir people like any mission preacher. Harold was asked to leave yet another congregation. Although he liked to preach, he was negligent in his pastoral duties. Lynn Bernstein found that Anita destroyed and redacted parts of her journals from this era. You know what, sometimes I just wanted to reach into this book and take Harold by his starched collar and shake him. Anita finally found her true place as an ordained minister when she was called to be the summer ministry in Rowe, Massachusetts. And she's one of the people who started the Rowe Camp and Conference Center, if any of you have been there. The rest of the Pickett's ministerial careers were all spent in the Massachusetts area. In 1926, Anita and Harold were joint ministers at the Unitarian Church of Peabody and Medford, an arrangement that held up, as she said, as long as it was convenient for the male member. He only scheduled Anita to preach when he could perform the baptisms. Yet Anita's diaries are filled with her constant forgiveness and optimism while she balanced her professional and domestic life. With a sigh, Anita found she had left the life of lectures and celebrity behind her. She wrote, "I see the names of old friends whenever I look through the contents of a magazine. Shall I ever touch their lives again?" At the age of 48, she got a driver's license, and she loved to drive fast. And all the times that she was pulled over, and there were multiple times, with her sweet round face and her ability to speak, she never got a ticket. After Harold's death in 1950, the congregation in Ware, Massachusetts, where they were serving a joint ministry, asked her to stay on. When Harold died, Anita found their financial records, you can see this coming, which he had insisted on keeping, were in disarray. With small savings, she lived her final years on her meager pension. Her last years were also impacted by ill health, which had plagued her most of her life. Yet, her granddaughter spoke of her indomitable spirit and courage, saying, "You could knock her down and she'd get straight back up." After her retirement from the Ware Church, she returned to her family's homestead, the oldest stone house in Lake Katrine, and there she wrote her memoirs, continued to travel and to fill guest pulpits, and took care of her ailing sister, and gardened. She wrote, "A garden is good geriatrics. It provides a mild incentive to continue living. I must be here to see my bulbs bloom in the spring." In 1954, she traveled to Poughkeepsie to help start the Unitarian Fellowship. Yet, she wrote, "My inclination is to settle down and to spend the rest of my days building a Kingston Unitarian Fellowship." And as I said, she was a charter member of the Unitarian Fellowship of Ulster County. And at one point, she wrote of the fellowship, "I have refrained from any leadership, except that they have discovered my familiarity with procedure, and they depend on it. But I hope they will make me honorary minister so that I may have ministerial standing in the community and as a delegate to AUA." Did we? No, we didn't. We named a room in the farmhouse after her. Well, sort of. It's called the Pickett Room, which is her husband's name. Upon her death in 1960, we were meeting at the Governor Clinton Hotel. Two years before her death, Anita wrote, "When the new order is established, our granddaughters ought to have some record of the revolution which brought them liberty. What is the woman of the future to do will be the woman of the past. We are the builders of the world, yet we must use the material at hand in its construction." This is an imperfect summary of an amazing life. It is a filtering of Lynn's sifting through Anita's unpublished autobiography and the journals, several of which she edited and destroyed. But it's also about a tiny, fragile woman who we thought was just a brown beetle, not recognizing that she was able to fly. We did not recognize her place in history, her character, her optimism, her free thinking, her humor. And philosophers, a speaker before hundreds. She was a woman far ahead of her time in her independence and feminism, yet she was a product of her time. We saw a woman brought to meetings by her grandson. We saw a brown beetle. Lynn, who was a young woman when she met Anita, wrote, "I regret that I didn't get to hear her amazing stories from her own lips. I have paid the penance for my youthful cavalier attitude toward the elderly by writing about her." Since her gift was oratory and many of her spoken words were never written, but several years before her death, she wrote her Confession of Faith, in which she wrote, and this passage to me is worth the whole homily, "To realize and reveal the divine within my soul, to see, serve, and worship the divine faith, my religion. Every day is a romantic adventure. Every place I visit is holy ground. All people I meet are divine companions, seeking me as I seek them, that we may reveal the divine in our souls one to another and share the divine that we discover in our universe." Unitarian composer Leela Cobb set these words to music. So for our closing words, Liz Thomas will sing them for us. divine companions, let us extinguish our chalice as we say our words. We extinguish the flames, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, by the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts till we are together again. From you I receive true